If you're training consistently in the gym and your physique does not look like how you think it should, then this video is for you, because I was in the exact same position years ago. I was training consistently, I was in the gym, then I started doing small group personal training. I had a rough idea about calories, I was tracking my food, but my weekend habits were letting me down. I'd be in cycles over the years where I'd be dialed in on the gym, but my nutrition would be out of whack. I'd be falling off at the weekends. I'd cut for a bit and then I'd bulk for a bit, and there was no real consistency to it. And towards the end, I got very consistent at training in the gym. I did get a lot stronger, but visually I looked the same and I looked skinny fat. And then eventually I was starting to get fat as I bulked up to over 200 pounds. So I hired a coach. I was so sick of it, and within 5 months I had dropped 16 kg. And in this video I'm going to show you some of the systems, some of the habits I used, some of the mindset approaches that I used to lose the 16 kg, keep it off, get in even better shape. Ran the French Alps then 2 years after that, and my physique is getting even better. Every couple of months my strength is getting better as well, and I've just pushed on even more. I'm Alan, I'm an online coach, and I work with lads who are like you. They're in the gym a couple of times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, but they're not seeing the progress that they expect. Their physique isn't reflecting the effort they put in. They're very frustrated with what they're seeing looking back into the mirror. I've helped all these lads transform their physiques and finally make the change so that they're putting in the effort in the gym and they're finally getting the reward for all the effort that they're putting in. So the first thing that I did, and it's so important, the food system that I used to get in shape. So my old pattern used to be I'd be good Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday, and then the weekends would just be a free-for-all. I'd have no planning. I'd be eating takeaways, sometimes 2 takeaways a week. It was just like ridiculous stuff. So what I did when I was getting shape, when I hired my coach, was looked at the structure of my meals from Monday to Sunday. So I would have the same breakfast every day. It was oats. I'd have a similar lunch every day. Sometimes I'd rotate it out. I'd have 2 on rotation every couple of weeks. Then I'd meal prep 4 dinners, sometimes 5 dinners on a Sunday. I'd have the shopping done on a Friday or Saturday. I'd sit down, meal prep for, it took me, I think it was 25 or 30 minutes on a Sunday for 5 dinners, which wasn't too bad. And that would be my dinners covered for the week then. And at the weekends, I knew exactly what I was eating as well at the start. And then as I got more used to the meals prep, the meal structure, what I did was I opened up a little bit more flexibility for myself at the weekends, because I finally gained that self-trust in myself. I wasn't having fucking 2 takeaways a week and going mad. I was more dialed in at the weekend, so I opened up a bit more flexibility where I would have, certain foods that I wouldn't have during the week. I wouldn't meal prep for the weekend. I just cooked those on the fly, but fit those into the macros. But at the start, I knew what I was eating for the 7 days of the week, because the weekends were historically where I would absolutely fuck up altogether. And by having the meals done out, knowing what I was eating the next day, even if my lunches weren't prepped, my breakfast and my dinners were all prepped, it just took all the decision fatigue out of it. It meant as I was starting to get hungry between meals, which does happen when you're in a calorie deficit, I knew what was coming up in an hour, so I wasn't making reactive decisions. When I would go to the gym after my 9 to 5, I knew what I was eating when I came home. So again, I wasn't making emotional reactive decisions, whereas in the past I might say, fuck it, I'll just get a frozen pizza or I'll order takeaway. So that just eliminated everything, and it was a massive game changer in just making food way easier. And if you're in the middle of a fat loss phase right now, I've got a free guide in the description below on the common fat loss mistakes that people make, and mistakes that people make during the reverse diet, so the stage after the diet. Another really important thing I did outside of nutrition and training was getting comfortable saying no to people. So for many years, I would agree to go to all the events, all the parties. If I was in work and someone put a cake in front of me or a chocolate bar or whatever it was, I would eat it. I'd be picking away at sweets if it was in the office. And I just said no to all that stuff. And it felt uncomfortable at first when you're not used to saying that to people. Like, I remember there was times in the office where pastries would be bought individually for us. So like, I'd have a pastry bought specially for me, and I would just say no thanks, I'm not going to eat that. I have a certain goal. And people found it a little bit weird. People would pass a little comment, and then over time people got used to it. They knew I wasn't going to eat it. Sometimes they would buy it for me but they'd be like, you're probably not going to eat this. And I was like, no, I'm not going to eat it. Same with nights out. I just decided I wasn't going out every weekend, ripping the piss like I used to. It was just done. I stayed away from that environment to start with, and then eventually I reintroduced it. I would go out, have a couple of Coke Zeros, or I'd have a water and stay maybe for an hour or two just for a bit of social connection. And then I realised after a couple of months I actually find this incredibly dull and boring, and now I just like to meet up with my friends for a walk or a coffee and just not go near the pub, and just keep the alcohol for like special events like stags, weddings, maybe like one or two at a birthday or a special event, and that's it then. But for me, learning and getting clear on the ability to say no, and sometimes there was some comments from people where they were like, would you not just have a pint or fucking live a little? And that's absolutely fine. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I was sick of living the way I was, trying to get in shape for the last few years. So that was what I needed to do. And then eventually people got used to me saying no and how I was living my life, and it became way easier. Then with the gym, the simplest thing I did with the gym, I never had an issue with the gym. I enjoyed it. It gave me a lot of satisfaction going to the gym and getting stronger. But what I did anyways was I scheduled it into my calendar for work and personal. So I had that time straight after work. It didn't matter how I felt. It didn't matter what was on. There was many days where I finished up in the 9 to 5. I was quite tired, and I just go up anyway and then get it done, because for me, negotiating with myself around when I go to the gym just wasn't an option, because what ends up happening is you'll say you'll go in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then all of a sudden you're on the couch and it's 8 or 9 o'clock. And I've done that in the past, and those late gym sessions just have me wired at night. I don't sleep great, and I just don't like eating food after it. So I blocked out my diary, 5 o'clock, when I was finished, I was going up to the gym no matter what. And then outside of all of that, there was daily standards that I had to raise for myself. So I had okay standards around the gym in that I would go consistently. My standards around food were just not at the level they needed to be, and I needed to be honest with myself that I needed to track my food 7 days a week. That was the minimum. That wasn't honestly something to be that proud of. That is just the minimum that the person who was in shape would do. And then daily weigh-ins. So I'd weighed myself before, but I never used the data correctly. So daily weigh-ins, so me and my coach could analyse how the trends were going. Weekly progress photos, just incredibly motivating, because the first couple of weeks, or maybe even months, 3 months, I was probably down a couple of kg. There wasn't a massive difference because I had a good bit of fat to lose. But then after that point, comparing the photos to the initial photo was just night and day, and that really got me fired up. And it's just really cool to be able to look back on your progress photos then. And then I just repeated that for years and didn't stop, and got in the best shape I'd ever been. I don't even remember when I had seen abs before that, maybe when I was like 12, if even. And since then I've pushed on, ran the French Alps, got in even better shape, and it's just like effortless to me now. So hopefully you got some value from that. You can take it away. And if you're in the middle of a fat loss phase right now, I've got a free guide in the description below on the common fat loss mistakes that people make, and mistakes that people make during the reverse diet, so the stage after the diet. If you found this helpful, drop me a follow on Instagram at Alan Quigley Coaching.